Well, thank you for joining us. We've got probably one of the most exciting golf discussions to be had tonight. One of the highlights of the year. It's the Open Championship, and it's going to be held at, well, arguably the spiritual home of golf, St Andrews. I'm delighted to say I'm joined by our, I'd say they're now regulars, panel. We've got, first of all, the man we must highlight who picked out the winner of our last video. Dave, good evening.
Good evening, thank you.
Well, no,
Good
thank
to
you.
get the winner in the US Open. He played very well, so yeah, it was great to get the win anyway. Even though he was so short, but it was good anyway.
Yeah, well, I didn't listen to you because I laid him in running, so that's why we don't hear from me. We hear from you guys in these videos. Good evening, Dean. Nice for you to join us. Got some big prizes for us tonight.
Yes, Sam, very much so. 3 big ones in there at the end.
Excellent. Well, it's always good fun, a bit of an each-way bet on this competition. We'll get the prices for you shortly. But our final person that's going to be joining us and chatting throughout the evening with us is Paul. Good evening, Paul. You all right there?
Yes, good. Thank you, guys.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to hearing from all your views. The first thing I suppose we better mention is the fact that the price grid I'm about to appear on your screen when I pop it up is going to be missing someone. Rory McIlroy. Interesting, obviously, that he's obtained an injury playing soccer. I've seen a couple of you saying he shouldn't be doing that kind of thing. That's not really what we're here to debate. But what I'd love to know from the guys is whether you would have been backing Rory in this kind of field. If I start with you, Paul, would you have backed Rory or looked at him?
No, in a word. I think my view is always I look for form coming into tournaments. So he's not done enough for me in the last week, irrelevant of injuries, and I think he was around anywhere between 5 and 7s, depending where you looked. Not big enough for me with his form.
No, that's not a problem. Dean, what about yourself? Rory, obviously sad that he's not going to be there, but was he on your radar?
Not really, Sam. We mentioned during the US Open preview that he was a bit familiar with the ladies recently. My only surprise was that he didn't break his ankle hopping from one bed to another, to be honest. I don't blame him for playing football. You know, he's a young lad, and I think it's a shame that he's missing from the event. Hope he gets back to his full health sooner rather than later.
And yourself, Dave, just to round up, was Rory going to be on your shortlist before he obviously went and played football with Roy Keane?
No. He was a bit too short for me. In fairness, if somebody had said to me, I'm going to back more Rory McIlroy, I wouldn't have talked him out of it. You know, he was third here in St Andrews in 2010 in the Open Championship. He won the Alfred Dunhill here at St Andrews as well in 2014. So his form, his previous form is very good. And you know, he's obviously he had a bad week in Ireland at the Irish Open, but before that his form was quite good. So you know, I wouldn't have gone near him myself, but I could see why he would be appealing to people.
No problem. Right. So we'll move on to probably the other young face of golf, Jordan Spieth. He's your market leader. I'd love to know whether people felt, first of all, his preparation was right. He's obviously not appearing in Scotland this week. And get a take on whether you think this young man that's exceptionally talented will take to this kind of course. You know, we'll see there's 113 bunkers out there somewhere, I think I read. I mean, is Jordan Spieth, David, going to be the man that you'll be looking towards or expecting to see a performance from?
To be honest, Sam, I wouldn't be surprised if he came here and won. He's played so well in Chambers Bay. He really negotiated that course, its bounces, the bunkers, everything so well, and I thought he put it beautifully. It's not ideal that he's not playing in Scotland. I think he probably should be playing in Scotland. He hasn't really got that much Open Championship experience. It's a different animal than the US. So for me, playing in the John Deere probably wasn't a good idea for him. But you know, maybe, as I said to you before, maybe it was a sponsorship thing. You had to make an appearance, so you had to be there. But it's not the most ideal preparation. But as I said, I wouldn't rule him out. He's definitely the best player in the field.
That's fine. Dean, Jordan Spieth, obviously we've seen him, well, go from strength to strength this year and played some fantastic golf. It's been up there with the best. He's going to have to really draw on all that experience he's earned and his talent to be able to play this kind of course. Is he someone that you'd expect to be up there, even if you're not necessarily backing him?
Well, you can't write him off, can you? He's amazing talent. I mean, I thought he had a big chance in the Masters, but I didn't fancy him at all in the US Open, to be honest. He surprised me there, so I'm never going to write him off. But his Open record, he's twice been in it, 44 from 36. He's only played one round of golf at St Andrews. That was over 4 years ago. He's in the John Deere Classic, not going to arrive in Scotland until Monday. He won the John Deere 2 years ago, so whether he's got some commitment to them, you know, through that or sponsorship, as Dave said, I don't think ideally it's a good preparation. When you combine all that with the fact that he's a 5-to-1 shot, not for me. I'll be opposing him, and I've seen that his odds on, I think, is around about 8-to-11 for a top 10 finish. I might even lay a bit of that.
No, that's fair enough. We want opinions, and then we just got one. Well, it comes to our final panelist of the evening. Will he complete the full house and tell us that Jordan Spieth's worth not looking at? Paul, give us your view.
Absolutely worth looking at. I tend to agree with David. I think I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the top 10 most of the week, and when it counts, he goes and wins it. But I like value. I wouldn't take him at fives. You know, as Dean said, he's coming across Monday morning, I think. It's just not enough time for me. Hasn't played there since 2010. Just, it's not value. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins, but I wouldn't have a play at fives. Not a chance.
Well, there you go, guys. You've heard it here first. Our entire panel have told you that he might win, but they can't have him. So if Jordan Spieth is doing well, you'll see a lot of worried OLBG members. We're going to move on then. We've got Dustin Johnson next in the market, which arguably surprised a few people to see him probably as short as he is. He's around a 12-to-1 shot. And I'll reverse the order this time. Let's give you a chance, Paul, to go first on this one. DJ, is he going to be up there and making it?
I get the impression, or having watched him a little bit, he tends to be the bridesmaid, not the bride, if I can use that analogy. For me, he doesn't always get across the line. He'll be there. I expect him to be top 10 again, like he always is. Just, again, he's not where I'm looking in that top 7. I've got a couple of other selections in that 7 that appeal to me more.
Well, that worries me because literally on my notepad, the only thing I've written down about him is Mr. Bridesmaid. So we're obviously thinking along the same lines, which is probably worrying for you, given my record on golf betting. Dean, yourself, Dustin Johnson, is he a man that you could see going well here?
Well, the course should be made for him, to be honest. If there's a course out there made for Dustin Johnson, I'd say this is it. He's got a brilliant record in the Open as well. The worry for me is, can he recover from that meltdown that he had in the US Open? And I've had a bit of a delve into some of the famous meltdowns before of, say, McIlroy's last round blowout in the Masters, Adam Scott when he did it in the Open, Dustin Johnson himself, 2010 US Open when he shot a final round 82. And I've looked into what they've done in the very next tournament, and they've all been well down the field. It's like it takes them a while to get over that. You can imagine how many times he's going to be asked the question this week. You know, he had a 4-foot putt to get in a playoff, 12-to-1 with all that on top of his back. He could win it. He could rip this course to bits. But you know, we alluded to it earlier. Paul said, you know, you've got to look for value. You've got 150 plus runners in this. Do you want to back Dustin Johnson at 12-to-1 on the back of that US Open performance? Not me.
A resounding no then, which completes our panel with a view from David on this one. David, DJ, the Mr. Bridesmaid, as we're going to now officially christen him, interested or not?
I agree with the two lads. I think he's always a bridesmaid. He's always up there. And as Dean said, I reckon you're right. I think he is made for this course. I think he could tear it apart. But can he get it done on Sunday? It's too much of a doubt for me, and that's why I think he's to be avoided.
No.
And I think after what happened in the US Open, it wasn't a bad putt he hit. He just hit it in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So he didn't dolly the putt. Like it wasn't short of the hole. So he did get to the putt, but he just hit it in the wrong direction. So no, he wouldn't be for me either, to be honest.
No, that's absolutely fine. Opinions are what we want. Our next competitor we're going to look at, Justin Rose. Obviously had his historic 4th place finish in this tournament, which really brought him onto the golfing scene, I suppose. Record since then has been patchy in this particular tournament, but he's been a changed man in recent years. Dean, we'll start with you on this one. Justin, interested?
Well, I remember before we spoke about the US Open, I remember saying that I was really disappointed with how he finished at Memorial when he got into the playoff with David Lingmerth, and he was, you know, all over the place really, and he should have won that. US Open, he was steady, if not spectacular. I finished 27th. Missed the cut here in 2010, but he did win here as an amateur. His putter's been a little bit off of late as well, and he's alluded to that himself, so slight worry there. What's he, around the 20-1 mark?
18.
No, he's a pass for me. You know, if he wins, he wins, but he won't have my money.
No, I mean, the only thing I would say, he's obviously has, I think in 2014 he won the tournament that's going on this week, which is often considered ideal prep. Obviously it wasn't held at St Andrews then, but it's interesting to see that he goes there again. David, Justin Rose, are we starting to get to a position where you could be looking at an each way bet that seems value?
Yeah, I mean, I had him on my short list. I decided to leave him out because, just like Dean said, he really was poor in that playoff against Lingmerth. It shouldn't have really even got to a playoff, in my opinion. He should have wrapped that up in the 18 holes, but he didn't, and he put it very poorly, I thought. Even watching him today in Scotland, he missed a few makeable putts. Now, he finished, I think, 3 under for the day. He missed, you know, a couple of makeable ones for him, and it further kind of cemented my decision to leave him out, to be honest. And as Dean said, he did allude to that his putter wasn't, you know, really going the way he'd like it to at the moment. So yeah, I think he's at 20 odd to 1. He wouldn't be for me either.
No, that's fine. And well, the one thing you need to do wherever you're playing, no matter what the course is like, we will touch on the course a little bit later on, you've got to be able to putt. And if you're not putting, you're not going to be winning major tournaments. It goes without saying. A man who, well, I think can putt quite well, but he's probably not done it enough recently, is Adam Scott. David, we'll start with you on this one. Adam Scott, could we see a performance from him?
I mean, possibly. Like he was thereabouts in I think it was 2012 at Lytham in St Dan's. He was kind of leading for 3 rounds, and then Ernie Els kind of just snuck up behind him, and I think he birdied the last, if memory serves, and Scott hit it into a fairway bunker left, and he ended up taking a 5. So, I mean, he hasn't really been firing for me either. He is a good putter. He is trying to adjust to this, you know, non-broom handle putter, and he tried it for a while and then went back to the broom handle. I hear that Steve Williams is now back in his bag. You know, he said it's going to be a positive. I'm yet to see any kind of glowing results to show that at the moment. I wouldn't rule him out. He's played well in the Open in the past, but again, I just think his form is too much of a question mark at the moment. And again, he's not for me.
No, that's fine. You can oppose people that are short in the market, and we'll look forward to hearing some of your bigger prices later. Dean, Adam Scott, are you a fan of the golfer as a man, but just not here?
No, yeah, I really like Adam. He's actually got a really good record in the Open. He's been in the top 5 the last 3 years. His form suffered, as Dave said, when he split with caddy Steve Williams towards the end of 2014. But I've read that Adam Scott pretty much begged him to return to his bag, and that was just before the US Open. Now, Adam Scott finished 4th in the US Open with a real good finish there. We've got to remember as well, Steve Williams was on Tiger Woods' bag when he won his 2 Opens at St Andrews, so he's going to know the layout better than most. It's really sort of rekindles Adam's enthusiasm, I think, having Steve Williams back on the bag. 20 to 1's a bit short. I was really close. Of the sort of front 6, maybe Adam Scott was as near to any of those that I was of backing. He's the one, if he wins Sunday night, I'm going to be sit there just like moaning at the wife and kids saying, I nearly backed him. That's what's going to happen. I'm not backing him, but I really could see him going close.
Well, if he's one of your nearly men, Dean, we need to put him on our shortlist then. we'll finish up just by letting Paul have a little take on Adam Scott. Any particular views on him? And do you think, obviously, the caddy returning is gonna prompt, hopefully, an continuing upturn in form?
I think it's twofold. I don't have a problem with them taking the caddy back. I think it can be seen as a positive. But, you know, it's a bit like jobs. They say you shouldn't always go back for a second term. You look at the football managers that go back, tend to fail. I think the view from Adam Scott with me, since he's had his son, he's played less. And I think he's one of those players that needs to be playing regularly. So I would probably take him on and actually go with one of my tips that the other two guys didn't agree with, which was Justin Rose. I think there's more for me Justin Rose at the moment.
That's absolutely fine. You're allowed to have that view. I'm delighted to say that we're going to be moving on to, I know one of our panel have tipped this golfer in question. If I just return to our odd screen and bring them back up, we're going to be looking at, of course, it's the one, the only, Heinrich Stenson, who I know one of our panel have tipped. Who's tipping Heinrich?
That is myself.
Right. We'll let you go first then, because it's only fair. You have no time restriction, but just give us your view on why you think at around the 20-1 mark he's the man we should be looking at.
I basically think he played very well there recently in Germany. He finished solo second there, just behind Pablo Larrazabal, and he looks to be kind of just peaking at the right time for me in terms of form. He's played well at the Old Course in the past. He finished tied third at the Open in 2010. Finished on 8 under for the tournament. His record at the Open has been quite good over the last few years. He finished tied third in Royal Birkdale in 2008, tied 13th in Turnberry in 2009, and he was solo second then to Phil in Muirfield in 2013. So he kind of got this illness there around the Masters, and he seems to have kind of just really gotten back to his game and recovered from that. As well as his solo second in Germany, he also had a good week at the Nordea Masters. I thought his short game in particular was extremely sharp. And then in the US Open in Chambers Bay as well, he was right in the mix after an opening round 65, but sadly fell off the pace. He ended up finishing tied 27th, but I mean, Chambers Bay looked like one of those courses that could punish you for the smallest of infractions. So he showed some great early season form as well. Finished tied 4th at the WGC Cadillac, solo 4th at the Valspar, and solo 2nd at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. He should have really won the Arnold Palmer Invitational. I think a couple of bad putts took him out of it. However, he did play well, and he seems to be kind of a good fit statistically as well. Like he ranks 7th in driving accuracy on the PGA Tour so far this year. He's first in greens in regulation, which is going to be a huge plus around St Andrews in my opinion. Strokes gained tee to green is another vital stat. I think these greens are so big, and I think you'll need to get the ball kind of close enough to the pins in order to score, and you need to putt well as well. And he ranks 15th in strokes gained putting. So I think he all in all, with a good previous Open form, he's played well at St Andrews in the past in 2010, finishing third. I think he's well worth a look at 22-1 without a doubt.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really fair argument. And of the ones frontwards in the market, I'd sooner hear you tipping something that gets to that kind of price. We'll go to you, Paul. What's your view? Do you think it's a fair assessment, or are you going to be looking elsewhere?
David's absolutely hit the nail on the head. Absolutely set for this tournament. I can't back him. He's let me down once too many times. He's one of those golfers on that list now. If he wins, fair play to him. I've lost too much money on him.
So you won't be amazed if he goes well. That's the point I'm trying to get. You're not going to be sure.
David's made the point. Everything points to a good tournament here, and good luck to him. I hope he does win if David tips him up. But for me, personally, I think he'll have a good tournament, but I just won't back him.
No, that's absolutely fine. Dean, yourself, fair arguments, but not one for your shortlist, or was he near the list?
Yeah, I won't waffle on too much. Dave's made a good point about why you would back him. He's not won since November 2014. He was at his peak previous to that. He's not, in my mind, although Dave said he's quite high on the putting statistics. When I watch him, when he's not on top form, his putting looks a bit iffy to me, too short. I think the first 5 or 6 in the betting all look a bit too short to me, and I won't be on any of them.
No, that's absolutely fine. Not a problem at all. We're here to hear opinions, and that's what we want to do. And I like the fact you're not just going to be tipping up things that are short in the market, and so do our OLBG members watching and non-OLBG members. I suppose the next player we better move forward to is Louis Augustin. Interesting player. I want to know, guys. Paul, is he going to be interesting you in this tournament?
Not really. He's not been on my radar at all. Nothing wrong with him, and I know a number of people will fancy him, but for me, just hasn't even come onto my radar. I might be interested if he was 40s, maybe 50s, but not for me at 20 odds. Not for me.
I must say I was surprised to see him when we were doing our caption for the front head of the market. I've not seen him there too often recently. Dean, any strong vibes around Lewis?
No, just the same as what Paul said. He's too short. You know, I would have expected to see him 40, 50 to 1. He's the reigning champion here. He won it in 2010. So, you know, there might be quite a few commitments that he'll have as well this week. Just too short. Good player, but too short.
I'm right in thinking he won it about 200 to 1 as well, didn't he? Which goes to show we should be looking at longer odds than probably the ones we are covering at the moment. But don't worry, we're coming on.
Don't worry.
Yeah, we have got them coming up. David, just quickly, he's not done too much, I suppose, in recent history to my mind, but can you try and make a case for him, or are you not interested?
To be honest, I actually had Louis on my shortlist. I actually think he could go well here. He's a great record at St Andrews, bear in mind, since 2010. He won, obviously, the Open in 2010, and he won it by, bear in mind, he won it by 7 strokes from Lee Westwood. So, you know, he finished kind of tied 19th Lytham in St Anne's. He's a great record at the Alfred Dunhill Links, which is also played at St Andrews as well. He finished tied 6th in 2014, tied 5th 2011. Yeah, I think he's a good chance, to be honest.
No, not a problem. So the last golfer we're going to mention from the front end of the market before I come on to your individual selections, as well as some other bits and pieces, is going to be Ricky Fowler. Ricky's chosen to take a warm-up in Scotland. I can see Dean making gestures at the bottom of the screen. I don't know whether they're good or bad, so I'm going to let him...
I'm funny already. It's every time the name Ricky Fowler's mentioned, it gives me goosebumps.
He's busy thinking about that mansion he should be living in on the back of the Dean millions that should have been following him. Dean, does that mean that you're going to have a begrudging bet on him, or are you going to leave him be?
Oh, do you know what? There's no one confuses me more than Ricky Fowler, I've got to say. I was thinking about it earlier on, and do you know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of, we've probably all had this before in our lives. He reminds me of that girlfriend you've had in the past where you know deep down you can't quite trust her, but you keep going back for more. I can't leave the guy alone. I don't know what it is about him. I was about to give up on him before he won the Players' Championship, and he just rekindled my enthusiasm. And I thought that the US Open was made for him. I really did. And then he opens with that 81, and I sit there scratching my head. I cannot make the guy out. He could, but the course should be made for him, like we said with Dustin Johnson. He loves links golf. He's not made my final 3. I want to watch how he goes in Scotland this week, because his last performance was the US Open, which was a disaster. He's open with a 68, I believe, today. He's 4 under. If he does a nice sort of top 10 in the Scottish Open, you can bet your life I'll throw a bit on him, but he's not made my last 3, and I literally don't know what to make of him.
Well, left Dean very confused, but I'm going to come on to our other pundits now. Let's see, Paul, what's your view?
Much like Dean, he was in my top 5, but he got scratched on, and much like Dean said, his performance in the US Open and the Memorial, we missed the cut there as well. Admittedly, he was even through 2 rounds, so by no means a disaster. But to miss the last 2 cuts, for me, I think what was the odds again? Low 20s. It's too short. Too short for someone that's not coming in with the form that I want to see. Again, look for him in the Aberdeen one at Aberdeen Asset Management. He's going well round 1, which is an improvement on the US Open. So, yeah, I'll wait and see what happens in the next couple of days before I have a play.
Sounds like this man is fast becoming the enigma amongst a lot of golf punters' lives. One man that will have a view, I'm not sure it's going to be necessarily a positive one, is going to be David. David, come on then, give it to us both barrels. Is he a man you would want to be seeing?
Yeah, I think he's a good chance. He's one of my picks. I think Ricky. I share the same opinion as the other two guys. I like Paul and Dean. I do agree with you, but I'm going to give him one more chance. He's let me down too, and I've just said, right, this is going to be the time. Either he does it, or I'm going to leave him aside. I'm going to scratch him off the short list in future. But I do think, despite the poor performance at Chambers Bay, he was. I mean, as Dean said, he shot an 81 in the first round, and which was terrible, quite frankly, and on a course that should have been made for him. But he does have a good open championship record. Like, his first appearance at the Open Championship was actually at St Andrews in 2010. He finished in a respectable tied 14th. He finished tied 5th at Sandwich at Royal St George's. He followed that with a tied 31st at Lytham and St Anne's. Then last year at Hoylake, he was tied second then with Sergio. So and that was after finishing tied 8th the week before in Royal Aberdeen at the Scottish Open. So after a good opening round today, it's further kind of I'm happy with where he is at the moment. I think he's in with a good chance this week and next week. He also played well at the Irish Open. If it wasn't for the bad weather, that kind of got him there. But he did finish kind of top 30, which isn't bad at all in really tricky conditions. He's good form. He won the Players' Championship, tied 9th at the match play, tied 12th at the Masters. I think he's a really good chance personally.
Excellent. No, that's a fair assessment, and no doubt something poor old Dean's cat is going to need to find somewhere else to live if Ricky Fowler starts well, because he'll be going through his foot, I'd imagine. Right, guys, this comes the part of the show where we're going to save your questions just for a little bit later on, and we're going to run through your selections now. Now, I was quite strict with the guys. A couple of them wanted to put in 4. I've said no. I've said there's a maximum of 3 here, and they've got to be some juicy prices. I didn't want to see the front 3 in the market. I would have boot them straight off the hangout straight away if I saw that. Right, so what I shall do is, this is completely at random. I shall find the first selections, and it looks like it's going to be... Oh, Dean, I think you're going to be up first, so I'm just going to bring your slide up there. I've got your 3 selections appearing on screen now. We've got Brooks Koepka at 60 to 1, Charles Schwartzel at 100 to 1, and Danny Willett at 100 to 1. So you've not let me down. You've gone for some big outsiders. I may play them all each way depending on what you say, but I'll let you start. Do you want to start with Brooks Koepka, the one that's nearest in the betting as such?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, right. Brooks Koepka, first of all, he's got fantastic memories of Scotland. He said he had a victory there a couple of years ago on the Challenge Tour that was the final victory that secured his European Tour card. He finished 12th in the 2013 Scottish Open when he was still literally a raw novice. He went to the 2014 Daniel Links and finished 9th. 2 of the rounds of that are played on St Andrews course, and he shot 64-68 round St Andrews. He hits the ball a country mile, which is ideal for St Andrews. But he's also very good on the sand saves, which is ideal. He's already won on both the European and PGA tours, and he's not been going long. What I like about the guy as well is he's already said, he's only 25 and he's played on both tours already, because he said he wants to learn how to play all types of shots, the bump and run that you need for links golf. So he's really got it all upstairs. Finished 33rd in the Masters, and he had a slight injury there. I think it was a hip injury, and 18th in the US Open. So he's got the game, this kid. I think he's an absolute surefire major winner in the next few years, if it's not next week. St Andrews will suit him down to the ground, and I think he's a big price, and he'll give you a really good run for your money.
So if nothing else, if we're not even backing him, he's definitely one that we should be putting in the notebook for the next couple of years.
Absolutely.
See how he grows and develops. Interesting point about how he wants to improve his golf education. I don't think all the players on the tour are actually like that, to be perfectly honest. Some of them take the easier route, and it's quite refreshing to hear that, I think. I'll let you move on. Charles Schwartzel, 100 to 1. Catches my eye because it goes into 3 figures. What's the view on him?
Big price, class act, this guy. When he won the Masters, he played that back 9 in as good as anyone I've seen. He really is the business. he's gone really off the boil since, and it's because he takes the game too serious. He gets himself so worked up when he's not playing perfect golf. What I like is I've read a few things about what he said about St Andrews, and he absolutely loves the place. He said he gets goosebumps the moment he starts getting anywhere near it. He loves the course. He's had 2 top 10s in the Alfred Dunhill Links, and he was 14th in the 2010 Open at St Andrews as well. His last 7 rounds round St Andrews, he shot 66, 67, 70, 66, 73, 66, 69. That's an average of just a fraction over 68, 68.14. Top 16 in 4 of his last 5 Opens. He was 7th last year. He's had a poor year, I admit that, but that's factored into the price. But he was 7th in the US Open, and he came with a real flying run over the last 2 rounds, which should have really boosted his confidence. His stats, the stats that I think you need for this week, you need to hit it a fair way. The last 4 winners were all in the top 30 for driving distance. He's ranked 7th. The last 4 winners were all in the top 60 for sand saves. He's ranked 1st. The last 4 winners were all in the top 50 for putts per round. He's 40th. He's got the game. The track suits him. Whoever would have thought you'd have got 100 to 1 Charles Schwartzel a couple of years ago? Yeah, he's got to bounce back to form, but compared to some of those around the 20, you know, ask any South African who's the better player, Louis Oosthuizen or Charles Schwartzel. There can't be anything in it at their best. One's 20s, one's 100s. It's too big. It's just too big.
No, that's absolutely fine. Really quick question on him then. You mentioned his probably takes the game a bit too seriously. Would you rather see him up there making the pace or off the pace and possibly having a reasonable but not great first couple of rounds? You know, you don't want him, if he's going to be starting to battle to make the cut, are you going to be worried, or would you rather see him up there making it and having to deal with the front running?
I'd rather see him 8 clear after the first round, to be honest. But yeah, I'd like to see him up there early doors and getting a good feel for it, because I think he'll grow in confidence the more the week progresses. And like I say, he's got what you've got going for you is the moment he turns up, he's going to be looking forward to playing the course. That's a big plus right from the word go. If you get in any sort of rhythm, 100 to 1 could look massive.
Well, your other selection is equally a massive 100 to 1 shot, slightly different profile, and I'll let you talk the viewers through that. What was the particular reason for making your third choice? Danny
Willett, I like the guy. He's a real good youngster. He's not frightened to win. That's a big thing in golf. The guys will tell you that there's so many players every week up there on the leaderboard. They get in 4th or 5th, a couple of shots off, bogey. They just can't bear the thought of winning. Danny Willett, he won't do that. He won't back off if the chance comes. Finished 2nd at Martin Keimer in the Alfred Dunhill Links way back in 2010. He wasn't half the player he is now. His 2 rounds at St Andrews were a pair of 67s. We're talking 2010 that he did this. His last 8 rounds at St Andrews, he's got a scoring average of 68. He finished 38th at the US Masters this year on his debut. I mean, they say it takes a few goes to get used to the Masters. Well, 38th on your debut is pretty respectable. He was 15th at Muirfield in 2013. And only just this year he's finished 3rd in the World Match Play, where you had the best 64 players in the world. This guy, he can bang the ball a fair old way. He's 11th for sand saves, and he's got he's 4th for scrambling as well. I just like the guy, and again, he's overpriced for me at 100 to 1. I think that's big, and it could give you a real good run for your money.
Dean, I want to thank you. We'll make sure that they go up on the Twitter page as well. They're good selections. We've got some questions for you later on, so stay on the line. I'm going to give one of our other guests a chance to talk now. Paul, we're probably going to come to you first, I believe, on this one. Let me just grab your tips and bring them up onto screen now for everyone to see. So, I believe you're going for Justin Rose, Jason Day, and JB Holmes. I'll let you talk us through.
Yeah, I think Justin Rose, and the other guys slightly disagree with me, but he seems to be playing above his seasonal average. As you know from the last one, I'm a stats-based person. I tend to look at numbers and how they're doing, and his driving accuracy is above where his season stats are. His greens in regulation is again the same. He's got 64% sand save record, and you know he's a good long range putter, as you said, as I think it was you, Dean, said, when he gets a little bit closer to the hole, he sometimes struggles. But he started well in the Aberdeen today. I think he was 4 or 5 under. So for me, 18 to 1, probably a touch skinny, but still enough in it for me to want to have a little play with. No,
that's fine, and we've touched on Justin. We've spoken about him as a player, and I definitely think he divides opinions still. Obviously, coming back from the scenes of that launched his career, really, it's fair to say certainly would be an emotional return if he can do it. I'll let you give us a little bit around the Jason Day selection now, if you don't mind.
Yeah, this is what I'm really excited about. I think, as Dean said earlier, you've got to be driving long, you've got to be driving big and accurate, and this guy does. I've just been looking at some of his stats today. His distance, he's ranked 4th for driving distance. He's ranked number 1 for birdie averages. There's just so many stats here. He's for the single biggest drive. I think it's 409. I saw on the PGA site. He's right up there. The longest drive, 409. He did that at the Hyundai. He's ranked number 2 for driving efficiency. Number 7 for putting averages, and we talk about needing to be in the top percentages for this sort of course. He doesn't miss within 3 foot. He just so consistent. He's had a couple of bad tournaments, but I just can't look past him at what was 33 to 1 earlier on in the week. It's dropped into 28 now. Stay 28, probably not. He's 7 top 25 finishes. That's resulted in 5 top 10 finishes. He won the Franklin Templeton shootout. Farmers. It just looks so good. His iron play is very good. I just can't ignore him at those prices.
No, that's why you're here. You've got to be putting your neck on the line. You've done it.
Yeah.
You have your big 100 to 1 finish now.
I'm sorry. Can I just ask Paul a question on Jason?
Yeah, go ahead.
Have you got any concerns, Paul, with what happened to him in the US Open with his illness, where he was collapsing, etc.? Because I do agree that this course and that should suit him down to the ground. But after seeing him, up and down like a yo-yo on the fairway in America, that really put me off. You read anything to say that trouble's cleared, or?
It didn't even come onto my radar. That was what. 3 weeks ago. If he was ill, he'd have recovered it from that. It didn't bother me at all. Absolutely nothing to me.
I thought it was vertigo, to be fair, which I suppose it comes and goes to most people, and hopefully he avoids it when he's on the golf course. We'll just get one line on JB Holmes, your 100 to 1 shot. It's nice to see another outsider that we could have an each way go on. What's the reason for recommending him as a possible selection?
His consistency. I like him for his consistency. If you look at just some of the things he's done this season, bear with me a second. 5 top 10 finishes. He's finished 2nd twice. He's finished 1st as well. I think they were. One of them was at the Farmers. He followed Jason Day home in 2nd. At the Cadillac, he was 2nd. At the Shell Houston Open, he won it. So he can fight his own corner in the big tournaments. He can play with the big boys. He's not missed a cut for 3 or 4 tournaments. US Open, he was tied 27th, which is no mean feat considering what that course did. 9 under at the Green Bridge, which was nice, a good round at the CVS Health Charity Classics. He was 15 under through 2, tied 64 to 63. At 100 to 1, he might well not have the putting game. Concern at that price, he's there, but I'm going to take a chance on him. He's just nice.
That's absolutely fine. That's what we want to hear. We like opinions, and no one wants to be putting people off big long shots. We've seen a 200 to 1 shot win this. There's no point in sitting there and sitting on the fence. Now we're going to come to, obviously, so far our most successful tipster. We're on to our 2nd event now. David, I'm going to bring yours up on the screen shortly. How confident are you feeling this time round?
I'm feeling pretty good, yeah. I think obviously I've gone through Stenson. I can kind of briefly go through him again. I think you know, obviously after his good week in Germany, he seems to have recovered from that illness that he got at the just around the Masters time, and he's coming into some good form. I mean, he's played well at the Old Course in the past. He finished tied third in 2010, as I said, in 8 under. And he's finished well, tied third at Birkdale in 2008, tied 13th at Turnberry in 2009, solo second to Phil Mickelson at Muirfield in 2013. So he seems to be like he's a good open record, I should say. And with a good week in Germany, he's kind of peaking at the right time. And as I said, at the Nordea Masters, he was tied 13th for the week. He putted, and I thought particularly his short game was very good. And statistically, like he really seems to really hit, fit here. I think I should have mentioned it before. There's 14 par fours here at the Old Course, and I think a main stat for especially approaches into these par fours, your approaches are going to measure probably between 175 and 200 on average. And that's where Henrik is really good in the stats. He's actually second in approaches from 175 to 200 yards, and he's 13th in par 4 scoring. So they're two really strong stats, along with his greens in regulation. He's first in greens in regulation, and he's obviously 7th in strokes gained tee to green, 15th in strokes gained putting. I think he's with a good open record. He's played well here in the past. I think he's a great bet at 22-1.
No, I think we've got a fair message on him tonight, and I can completely understand. And as a neutral, if you like, as the man that listens to your opinions, you've made one of the finest cases we've had on these so far. So he will be unfortunately carrying the penalty of my money as well as yours.
Right.
I know Ricky Fowler we've touched on and we've agonised over, but he makes your selection. What was the reason? Dean's shaking his head. What is the reason that you were bold enough to
twitching again?
Is the nervous twitch? What is your reason? How are you overcoming that worry that Ricky Fowler's going to throw a wobbly and not get anywhere near this?
To be honest, I'm kind of taking, as I said before, I'm kind of taking a bit of a flyer on Ricky. And I'm banking on his good open form. I really watched him today closely to see how he played. He seems to have kind of really recovered from his bad showing at Chambers Bay. I think he's come back strong. He's shot 4 under 68 today, which is great. And I think with his open championship record over the years, I think he's hard to ignore, and I think he's worth one more chance. I understand what the guys were saying, and I agree, but I think I'm just going to have another play on him and see how he goes. I think the thing that's getting me is for this in his first appearance at the Open Championship was actually here at St Andrews in 2010. He played very well. I mean, to finish in the top 15 in your first appearance at the Open is pretty impressive. He also followed that. He finished tied 5th in 2011 at Sandwich and at Royal St George's, and then last year at Hoylake he was tied 2nd to Rory with Sergio. So I think he is playing well enough. He answered a lot of questions, I think, at the Players. A lot of people were kind of saying that he can't really finish, and he's really a runner-up kind of player. He really answered all the critics with that, especially with his putting. I felt at Sawgrass, I thought he put it beautifully. And I think at the Old Course, you're really going to have to put well, especially you're going to have to avoid 3-putts with these big undulating greens, and I think that's where Ricky could have a bit of an edge, if I'm honest. He's 47th in driving distance. He's 4th in approaches from 75 to 100 yards, and he's 2nd in approaches from 150 to 175. He's a good record at the Open, and I think he's a good chance here. I'm willing to have another play on him this week or at the Open next week and see how he goes.
Right. Once more to the well then for Ricky Fowler. Wow, fair enough. And Dean will definitely be kicking himself. I can't wait to see his face if Ricky Fowler decides to go unobliged for you. Your final selection. I was a little surprised. I thought he might be a bit bigger, but we're looking around the 45-1 mark. Just give us a bit of background to your choice here. Shane Lowry.
I mean, I have to say, from between Stenson and Fowler, Lowry is he's actually above them in my opinion here. His first appearance at the Open Championship he's another guy who started at St Andrews in 2010, was his first appearance. He finished in a respectful tied 37th, which isn't bad. He made the cut, and he's no stranger to links golf. You have to remember, he actually won the Irish Open in Baltray in 2009 as an amateur. He beat Robert Rock in a playoff. And I actually know Baltray. I've played it many, many times myself, and it is cruel at times, depending on the weather. And if memory serves, I think the weather there that weekend particularly was very, very tough, and it didn't seem to bother him. So he then kind of his form began to steadily improve in the Open. Then in the coming years, then he finished then 32nd in 2013 in Muirfield, and then last year Hoylake he was solo. He was ninth on his own. And he played fantastically well. He's a great record at the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship as well. He finished tied 6th last year, and he was tied 3rd then in 2013. So he's really familiar with links layout, the old course as well. He's been showing some great form this season. I thought he played superbly well at Chambers Bay. Finished tied 9th on level par for the tournament. He also had a good week at the PGA in Wentworth, finishing tied 6th. On 11 under for the week. He had a good week at the BMW or at the he's kind of very familiar with other links layouts as well over the years. He's 3 top 15s at the Scottish Open since 2011. He finished tied 14th at Castle Stewart, tied 11th then again in 2012 at Castle Stewart. He was tied 4th last year at Royal Aberdeen. He also finished tied 10th at the Johnny Walker in Gleneagles as well in 2013. And like with great form at St Andrews and great links form, I think Shane Larry, personally, I think he's overpriced at 45 to 1. And he's a phenomenal chance this week at the Open Championship. And obviously with McIlroy out, I think it makes his chances even more realistic in my opinion.
Excellent. No, thank you so much. And wow, that's our judges' opinions, if you like. I'm delighted to say that I'm going to surprise them now because I've got a few questions come in throughout the course of the show. I'm going to ask them to answer. I'm going to give you a heads up on them now, and then I'm just going to say something so you got a little bit of thinking time. I've had a question in from Golfy Pete who wants to know where do you expect Tiger Woods to be finishing? So have a little think about that. Maybe is he going to be top 10 or below? Will he make cut? Also had a question, can you name, this is in from Bakes Mike, can you guys name a player that won't be making the cut? Can you put your neck on the line and give us one that St Andrews is not going to suit at all? While they're having a little think, I just want to remind you guys out there, if you're enjoying the videos, we really appreciate all the feedback. Add your comments below, tell us who you think is going to win the tournament. We love to hear from you. We want to get as many people involved, OLBG members and non-OLBG members. Don't forget to check out the website where you can see fellow tipsters like these guys who are in profit, who they're backing and why. We've got some fantastic competitions in there. Just Google OLBG and come join in all the different giveaways that we've got across all of our sports. So I suppose it's only fair to go back to you guys now, and I'm gonna want really a sentence on Tiger Woods because I don't want to waste too much time on him. I don't believe he's back in form personally. But Dean, Tiger Woods, is he going to make the cut here? Top 10, top 20? What do we think?
No, for me, his game's not back. He had a couple of good rounds last week on a real soft course where everyone was shooting 65, 66 for fun. His game's nowhere near what it needs to be in a real competitive field. So he may make the cut purely on the basis of he's won round St Andrews twice, so it's obviously a course he likes. But I don't expect him to challenge or get anywhere near the leaders. That's
absolutely fine. David, yourself, Tiger Woods, we mention him every time, but just a quick line on him. Is he going to even make the cut?
I think he might make the cut. Yeah, I think he's going to take a lot away from the Greenbrier, I think. He would have gained a bit of confidence from that performance. He got a top 30. That's his best finish he's had it over the last few weeks. Great record around the old course at St Andrews. He's won twice, as Dean said. I think he'll make the cut. I don't see him featuring.
No, that's absolutely fine. And Paul, just quickly on Tiger, you've not picked him in your selection, so I'm assuming that you've not got that strong a view. Think he'll make the cut?
Make the cut. Probably sneak into the top 25. He'll suit the course. There's no doubting that, but no more than top 25 for me.
Absolutely fine. Well, I'll go back to our final question from Bakes Mike then. I want a player from each of you, and you can't go for some 1,000 to 1 shot. Someone that you think will be in danger of missing the cut. Now, there's good markets out there for this kind of thing. I know it's something I've had a little play on before. Let's start with yourself, David. Someone that you think could be perilous or in a bit of bother this week and may not enjoy it.
I haven't really looked at it, to be honest. I think probably the guys that, if you look at guys that are playing in the John Deere this week, like if you're looking for value in terms of a miscut player, I'd say the likes of, probably, maybe Zach Johnson might be worth a look for a miscut. He's playing well enough, but it just depends on the weather really and preparation. So I'd say somebody like that, or I don't know if even Kevin Kisner's playing in the Open, is he? I'm not sure, but if he is, he'd probably be worth opposing as well. You need to have form, and you need to have links form and a bit of experience. And the guys that are coming over fresh from the US, I don't think really have a hope, to be honest.
I was itching for David to say Jordan Spieth. Maybe Dean will. Dean, someone that you think may be struggling this week, or you wouldn't want to be going near, let's say, if you don't necessarily think they'll miss the cut.
Yeah, well, you caught me on the hop a bit, so I could make myself look silly here, because I don't want to go and say someone that's 100 to 1. I'm going to go for someone that's in the top sort of 10 in the betting, and I think he was very close to being one of Paul's selections of winning, so I could really make myself look silly. He's the sort of player he could win it, but if things start to go wrong and you're looking for someone that's going to be odds on to make the cut and you want to lay, I'd say someone like Bubba Watson, because if things start to go, he's not a grinder. If he's 2 or 3 over early doors, he's likely to spit the dummy out, and he's not going to grind away like some others would do. So Bubba, I could look stupid and he could go close to winning, but equally, at the short ones, he could be in danger. And another one who I've not had time to look, but I don't ever remember him featuring very high on any Open leaderboards off the top of my head, would be Matt Kuchar. He's around 66 to win outright, so he could be one that could be missing the cut. But yeah, I'd say you caught me on the hop, but I'd chuck Bubba in as a one that could miss it.
No, that's absolutely fine, and unfortunately you guys are going to have to be more prepared for this. We're getting so many questions in. Let's finish up. Paul, anyone that you think could be in a bit of peril this week?
I'll throw 2 at you. I'm going to throw Dustin Johnson in there. Dean alluded to it earlier. How much of a monkey is on his back is what happened at the US Open. If that is still on his mind, it could go very wrong for him. As we all might look very, very stupid. But the other one was Phil Mickelson. His stats are not there this year. He's not hit the levels that he's hit. He might well fly into the top 10, but I think those are the 2 on the hop that I would pick out straight away.
No, I know Phil's been in the news for some probably the wrong reasons recently.
Yeah, I was just going to say that about the gambling issues that they've been quite well documented this week, and I don't believe he's got off to a great start in the Scottish Open, so Paul could have hit the nail on the head there. That could be a good pick, actually.
There you go, Bakes, Mike. We hope you're watching, because we might have found you one at a nice price to maybe miss the cut or be laying on the outright markets. I want to thank everybody for your participation, not only the people I've got with myself, David, Paul and Dean. I want to thank you at home for watching and tuning in. Don't forget, you can watch this video again if you've missed part of it. You can just click down below to subscribe, and you'll be able to get all our videos straight to you. We've got a lot more in the pipeline when it comes, especially towards the golf. It's a fantastic sport. Let's hope the Open produces a real magical tournament. And who knows, maybe we'll be backing another winner, and you'll be quids in with OLBG. Thank you and good night.
Cheers.